Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Pearcey Presents the Pearcey Presents podcast.
Hey, it's Pearcey here from the Pearcey Presents podcast. Welcome back to episode 6. This week's guest is the author of White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey. This is a fantastic book that I highly recommend that you all go out and get a copy of, because it is a fantastic read. I met up with Austin at a cafe in the city. As what happened with the Heath, Scotland episode, there was a little bit of background noise, but I've again tried my best to edit that down, and I think personally that the quality is quite good. So basically tried to reduce the background noise, and you can quite clearly hear myself and Austin conversing. Austin's a very interesting character. Met him randomly when I was in Sydney a few weeks ago at the pub, and heard someone shout out something about a podcast, and obviously I'm all about podcasts at the moment. So I popped my nose over and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm launching a podcast. Do you have one yourself, or what's the deal?" And Austin basically told me a bit about his story, that he had this book that he's looking to do some promotion with. I gave him a business card, and basically I got in contact with his publicist from Pan Macmillan, Australia. A shout out to Hannah. She's been fantastic, along with Austin, to get this organised. They were kind enough to give us a copy of White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey for you as part of the Pearcey Presents prize booty. Austin was kind enough to sign it, and that just goes into the extended prize pack for one of you lucky listeners, that once we hit 100 subscribers and 100 reviews on iTunes, then the Pearcey Presents prize booty will be drawn. So far we have the signed book, a Lindsay Gaze signed hat or drink bottle, your choice, and a little basketball. Been in contact with Heath, Scotland, and he is more than happy to sign a picture, so that is no stress at all. As mentioned a couple of weeks ago, I interviewed a great man the other week, and he's been kind enough to provide a sample pack which contains some real cool goodies. More details will come once we get him on the show, which will probably be at this stage next week, all being well. And we also have the Pearcey Presents gear, so that's going to include a hat, t-shirt, and a few other little bits and pieces. So I've just been able to pick up these items in the last week, so that's very exciting. You've seen those pictures. And again, if you're listening and you haven't followed or liked our pages, please do me a favour, it's much appreciated, just like at Pearcey Presents on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Also, as I briefly mentioned before, if you could subscribe to the show on iTunes, give it a 5-star rating, that'd be hugely appreciated. And if you do have time, just pop a quick review down, a few words, what you liked about the show. Now, if you don't think it's worth 5 stars, that's not a problem. Please let me know. I am more than open to get any feedback. So shoot me an email at info@pearceypresents.com. Have a look at our website, pearceypresents.com. That's got all the guest information. So where you can get Austin's book will be on there. All the information from previous guests such as Peter Hitchner, Lindsay Gaze, Heath, Scotland, and everyone else that has been on the show previously, their information is up there. Now, Austin's details will be there. So there'll be links to the Pan Macmillan Facebook, Twitter and Instagram pages. So the Facebook pages, facebook.com/Pan Macmillan Australia. Twitter is at Macmillan AUS. And the same with Instagram, Macmillan AUS. So that's MACMILLAN AUS. So you're probably asking where you can get this great book. So you can get White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey at local bookshops such as Booktopia or Dimmicks for the hardback copy. If you'd like a Kindle copy or an ebook, go to panmacmillan.com.au and just search White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey, and you'll be able to go from there. Or again, there will be links in the show notes and on Pearcey Presents under guest information. Again, a few quick points on what we cover today in the episode. Austin grew up in Sydney's North Shore. We talk about his parents divorcing at 12 and the impact that had on him, and his relationship with his mother and father, being an investment banker, advice that he may or may not have given himself looking back if he had a time machine when he was 16, being a stockbroker during the global financial crisis, and really the crux of the book and the juicy parts of the show was being on a bus in Colombia and being taken off swiftly by the guerrillas. Now, that's a story that I will let Austin fill you in on, and to get all the details, you are going to have to read the book. So this is a bit of a teaser episode. We're going to give you little snippets of what's in the book, but to grasp the whole concept of what Austin went through, I would highly suggest you getting a copy of the book. As I said, he covers off befriending a high-ranking cartel official, some wild nights that covers gangsters, hitmen, guns, and blackjack. We cover off cartel wars, whether he considers himself a writer or an author. And also, did he consider writing under an alias, as this is a true life story? He's changed some names of some of the people, obviously for security, and he doesn't want to get whacked, his words. Sit back, relax, enjoy Pearcey Presents chat with Mr. Austin Galt. So here we are today on Flinders Lane in the State Library, or Melbourne Library, with a fantastic author, Mr. Austin Galt. He's had an extraordinary life and extraordinary stories to tell that have recently been published in the brand new book, White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey, which will also be a prize for one of you lucky listeners, a signed copy even. Austin, thank you very much for your time, mate. You're originally a Sydney boy, is that correct? That's where we actually met.
That's right, Pearcey. It was nice to meet you up in Sydney while you were there. But yeah,
random night.
Yeah. So yeah, born in Sydney over 40 years ago now.
Sure, you don't look it, mate. You're looking good.
Oh, thank you, Pearcey.
You do look kind of have a bit of a Kyle Sandilands. Don't take that as an offensive
I'm not
thing,
sure,
but you've got the Kyle Sandilands look about you, mate.
Okay, well, I'll try and take it as a
Have you heard
compliment.
that before?
No.
Oh, Jesus. Might have to end it now. So over 40 years ago in Sydney.
Yeah.
What part of Sydney were you born and raised?
I grew up on the North Shore
Yes.
of Sydney, so originally more towards the upper North Shore, and then my parents divorced when I was 12, and from that's when I moved up to the lower North Shore.
Okay.
And,
Any brothers or sisters?
I have a younger sister.
Wonderful. And your parents divorced at 12?
Yes.
Was that a hard period of your life?
In a way, I guess it was the first instance in my life where I realised, what you may be comfortable with can change at any moment. So that was probably what I took away from that.
Because I don't know, because I'm 30, I got reminded recently that I'm 32, not 34 like I thought I was.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that says about me. I'm not trying to wish my life away, that's for sure. But I don't know if people or kids that I went to school with, or kids in general at my age, talked about their parents being divorced as much. Was that common when you were growing up?
Well, it's obviously more common now. Back then, not as common. So, I understood, and my parents probably weren't right for each other, but they were married for 17 years, which is
that's a
good
great
innings.
thing, yeah.
So,
that's fantastic.
So, and I never was angry at either of them, for their decision. So I knew I always knew it's their life. They've got to, decide which way they want to go in life.
And if that makes them happy, then that's awesome.
Absolutely.
And you have a good relationship with them still?
With my mother, my father passed away in 2009.
Sorry to hear.
It's okay, no, but I got on with both my mother and father well, so yes.
And was 2009, to jump forward a little bit, was that while you were away? in Colombia?
No, I was back in Sydney during that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have been a crash time or a fantastic time. Was there any particular ways that you dealt with the loss of your father? Obviously, people deal with loss differently.
Sure. No, like I always looked up to my father, and always got advice. Whenever I needed advice, I'd go to Dad, and so we had a really good relationship, a father and son relationship.
And you still have a good relationship with your mother?
Yes, of course.
Would you say you're a mummy's boy, or are you more of a daddy's boy?
No, I'm not sure. I'm not a mummy's boy. Not now, anyway. But no, we get on great. I love my mother dearly.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And she's still in Sydney?
She's in Sydney. She remarried many years ago.
Oh, good on her. That's
very
great.
happy. Yeah.
And I bet she's glad to see you back over in Australia at the moment.
She is.
So, do you live in Australia or are you just here on a holiday? Or
Well, I'm out here for the book, for the launch of the book. But I've been based in Medellin, Colombia since 2008. So, and that's where my family is currently.
That's awesome. So we'll jump back a little bit before then. That's obviously the juicy part of our chat is your time in Colombia.
Yep.
And the basis of the wonderful book White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey, available at all good bookstores and the bad ones too, I'm sure. You went to school obviously in North Shore, Sydney.
Yes,
You went to university and studied business.
that's correct.
Was that your dream growing up, or what did you want to be when you were growing up? Can you remember?
I'm not really sure. I think that was the path I thought I should take, I guess.
Okay.
So, and I did take that path for a while. But then it is when I first traveled to Colombia in 2001 for the very first time. It's then when, after coming home, I had such an amazing time in Colombia, and I resumed working for an investment bank. And it was only then that I realized, even though I guess I'd been, my life had always been heading in that direction, and that's why I thought I should go. It was after that trip I started questioning, well, is that really where I want to go? And so I decided I wanted to do something more interesting in my life.
So it's interesting. You say that that's what you thought you should do.
Yes.
Is that from external pressures, or you just thought that?
Absolutely not. But I was fortunate enough to receive a private school education and then go on and do a business degree. So the natural progression really is something like that, working in an investment bank. So, that's where I thought I should be going. And, for a few years, it was okay. But then, I started to, question that.
It's interesting. So do you think you're questioning that because of the environment that you're in? Or you just thought that you matured to a level that you thought, no, I want to do what makes me happy?
Yeah, I think my initial trip to Colombia opened my eyes to a lot of things, to the world. There's a whole other world out there, a whole other lot of possibilities, and so that's really what opened my mind to doing something different with my life.
So did you travel by yourself?
I was traveling by myself in Colombia, yes.
And was that the first time that two-pronged question, one, you travelled by yourself, and two, did any real travel at all?
I was traveling the Gringo Trail in South America, and that was the first time I had travelled by myself, yes.
Okay.
So I would have been 26, 27 in 2001 when I was travelling there.
What would be the best bit of advice if you could have a time machine and go back to when you were 15, 16, having those chats with the career officers at school? Did you have career, not officers, but like the career guidance counsellors and stuff like that?
I think we did, but they didn't have enough of an impact on me that I remember it.
Side topic, I know my schoolmates will. I was lucky enough to have a private school education. Just my father passed away, as I've said in another episode, and that was the only reason I was able to benefit from a private school education. And think it was Mr. Moore. I probably got his name wrong now.
Right.
But he was always on about do not disregard TAFE. And
Well, that's probably good advice.
It certainly is. And there's still been a couple of schoolmates that catch up, and we are always chucking do not disregard TAFE line. It still gets a bit of a giggle. And I went to TAFE. I never went to uni.
Right.
But this isn't about me, mate. This is about you. So if you could give yourself advice, you may not want to change anything, but if you could give yourself a bit of advice, maybe not so much career-wise, but is there any in particular advice that you would give yourself being 15, 16, 17,
It's a hard one. I think every person has to find their own way, and if that means doing something, if they're not totally sure what they want to do, such as me, I went down that investment banking path, and that's okay until I worked out, that maybe I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. It's okay to do something until you work it out for yourself. So,
Agree. You've got to pay the bills, and you're obviously a clever man, getting a uni degree of business and being an investment banker. It's quite a stressful job, I believe.
I found it more boring than stressful, really.
Not stimulating enough?
Not really. Not for me.
No.
Just, I felt it was just too. It was like being back in private school again in a way.
Yeah, with the suits.
With the suits,
in the cubicles.
Yeah.
Was it cubicle?
Cubicles, yes.
Computer screens, all that
That's
sort
right,
of sure.
yeah, you know it.
Here's me in semi-suit, so. So you finished uni, you were an investment banker. How long were you an investment banker for?
I would have done that for a few years before I travelled to South America, yes.
Okay, so was that investment banking including the stockbroker, or did the stockbroker come a
became
little later?
a stockbroker when I returned to live in Sydney between 2006 and 2009, so experiencing the global financial crisis.
Why did you want to go into stockbroking?
Well, I've always loved following the markets, even though I may not have wanted to be an investment bank, but the
You
markets,
still like something, but not
that's
want to.
right.
Yeah.
So technical analysis of the stock markets has always been one of my passions probably since my late teens.
Okay.
So I've always, loved actually following the markets, and so I actually really liked stockbroking until everything went belly up in 2008. So,
How would you describe that period of the world? Obviously, we'll have different listener groups, age groups listening to this.
Yep.
It was quite a traumatic time for the global financial industry. I think the common trend or common thought is Australia did pretty well out of it. We didn't get hit too hard.
Yep.
Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, well, I think that's a well-known fact that Australia did better than most.
How would you sum up or summarise the impact that it did have globally?
The impact globally, I don't think we've learned from any of the mistakes that happened.
I have to agree, yes.
So things continue on.
Hey, Pearcey here. Just thought I'd quickly jump in, just to let you know where you can get White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey, the book from the great Austin Galt. You can get the hardback at Gimmicks and Book Utopia, and you can also get the ebook from panmacmillan.com.au. It's a wonderful book. I've started reading it, and I would highly recommend any of you interested in biographical, true stories, or books of that nature. It's a highly entertaining read. Obviously, we didn't want to give too much away in the interview, so you will have to go out and get a copy of Austin's awesome book. Let's continue with our chat with the author of White Nights, A Colombian Odyssey, Mr. Austin Galt. Would you class yourself as an author?
As an author?
Yeah.
Well, I am an author now,
By
but I
trade,
don't.
or?
Well, because I've got a book out, so I'm an author, but I don't really class myself as a writer. So I've written a book. I'm obviously an author, but I don't class myself. I don't look upon myself as a professional writer, so to speak. So whether I write another book, I have no idea.
So in 2001, this is where the story gets juicy, and the basis of White Nights: A Colombian Odyssey. You would have heard the details in the opener, and I'll give you the information again at the end, and I'm sure Austin will give it a bit of a plug. 2001, you did some travelling to Colombia.
Yeah,
and, you had some quite an interesting bus ride that pretty much leads into this story.
well, that's right. So I'd actually been travelling already for 6 months around South America, and everything was fine. But then it was, by that stage I had hit the Colombian border, and at that stage there weren't many foreigners that travelled into Colombia. It was the most violent country in the world at that time.
The history of Colombia includes the settlements and society by indigenous people like the Muisca Confederation, Quimbaya civilization and Tairona chiefdoms. In 1886, the country adopted its present name, Republic of Colombia. In 1903, Panama separated from Colombia. The interest of the United States in the region was one of the reasons. The 20th century was one with some instability for Colombians, and even the military seized the power between 1953 to 1957. The internal conflicts escalated more after the creation of drug cartels, like the Medellin cartel ruled by some guys, including the well-known Pablo Escobar. Political crisis persisted in the 90s but then decreased from 2005 onward. Today Colombia has more stability than ever, is one of the most ethnically and linguistically diverse countries in the world, with almost 50 million people living in this country.
So you had the FARC guerrillas pulling about close to 10 people off the streets every day, kidnapping them during then. So I hit Colombia. I travelled up by bus from the south of the country.
Now, did you know that this was the case, that the guerrillas were pulling off foreigners and the level of crime?
Yes, I was aware of that. Probably not the extent of it though. And I didn't know where they were strong. So they were, at that stage, one of their strongholds was in the south of the country, where I was travelling initially. So I guess it was several hours into the trip. I'm enjoying the beautiful countryside, and it is really such a stunning country.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful.
So yeah, so I'm taking it all in, and then we go around a corner. It's a remote part of the world, a remote part of the country, and bang, about 5 guys just bang, jump into the middle of the road, pointing their guns at us. Now I can tell you, having experienced more life in Colombia, the police and military do not stop vehicles in that manner. So it's much more orderly, and they don't point their guns at you. So look, I was the only foreigner on the bus, and I was essentially taken off the bus and interrogated for 10 minutes by the guerrilla leader of that unit.
How was the language barrier?
Well, my Spanish at that stage was okay.
Okay, so you had learned some Spanish?
Yeah, it was okay. It's been 6 months. It still wasn't that great,
Yeah, true,
but,
yes.
but I could get by. So look, the leader, really, he was just, looking for any excuse to take me off, and I was pretty much just trying not to give him one. So,
Yeah, as you would be, yes.
yes. So look, I actually, told a friend about that, and he said, well, you would have had a great story if they'd taken you off and kidnapped me and taken me off into the jungle. And I thought, well, I probably would have eaten rice for a few years and not done too much else, and I wouldn't have gone on to meet the cast of characters that I subsequently did. So,
Now, on that cast of characters, so obviously you got they interrogated you for 10 minutes and you get back on your way?
Yeah, they let me continue after, they realised I wasn't, I guess, too much interest to them. So, and I think being an Australian was probably helpful to that cause.
Okay. Are you packing yourself at that stage?
Look, I certainly knew things could go bad, but I tried not to let myself get scared in that moment.
That's fantastic. And is that something that you think is a trait of yours that you don't let? Obviously, that's not a situation that you'll find yourself in every day, but you don't get overawed by certain moments.
I think it's about managing the emotions. It's about managing the emotions and whatever happens.
So was this the period that you met the previously mentioned cast of characters? Was this your next trip?
No, this is in 2001. So I travelled up to Cali, Colombia. And I actually spent a couple of months in Cali. And I had a girlfriend there, and that's probably why I stayed for so long in Cali. But I met, I had a guy, or a few guys actually, but I became really good friends with one of them. And I didn't know it immediately. It took, a while.
So can you give me some info on the characters that you met?
Well, in Cali, Colombia. So I met a guy who we subsequently became, really great mates over the years. But he was from the. So he was high up in one of the cartels in Colombia, one of the drug cartels.
You have to read the book to find this
I
out.
have to read the book to find out. That's
Yes.
right. So we actually became, great mates. I had actually no idea who he was for the first month of actually getting to know him. But certainly when we, became good mates, and he started to tell me a bit more of his life, and that's when I, discovered who he was. And over the years, I discovered even more about him. Over the years, he gained confidence in me enough to tell me, things throughout the years of our friendship.
Some things that I'm sure are and aren't in the book. Would that be right in saying?
That'd be right.
I'm sure that's for many reasons.
That's correct.
Is there... Obviously, we don't want to give away the whole book. We want you guys to go out and read it if you don't win a copy. Can you give us a little bit of a story on a night out, maybe?
Night out. Well, I guess probably.
I'm sure there would have been some cracking nights out over there.
There were some wild times, absolutely. One would have been in a dodgy little casino in Cali one night, and myself and Pedro, who are, my friend is called Pedro in the book, the character of Pedro. So we were playing blackjack together with a notorious gangster.
Yes.
Basically, there was things going on at the table. You'll have to read the book to find out. But the tension was absolutely rising, and things were on the verge of getting out of control. And it was at that stage we were completely surrounded by his sicarios, or his hitmen. So standing right behind me in the spare seats at the table, and I would suggest it was only due to the standing of my friend Pedro that we were perhaps left alone after that.
So this is like Narcos, real life Narcos.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cheap. So anyone that's a fan of Narcos, certainly get this book. It's an amazing story. Due to some issues outside of both of Austin and my control, I've only just got the book now, so I've been wanting to read this since I met Austin a couple of weeks ago when I was in Sydney. We're both very busy, but it'll be certainly something that I'll be doing in the very, very, very foreseeable future, as in the next couple of days. Even before meeting you, I've been wanting to get this book. That's why I've been hassling you publicists going, I really want to read this book before I met you, so I do apologise about that.
That's right. Well, I hope you enjoy it when you do read it.
Since I met you, it's I've been very interested, and I've done some research on you, obviously, and even the excerpts are amazing. And I know that's the reason for them, but
yeah,
I'm sure this book is well worth every penny of it, just to get a glimpse into what you can actually put on paper, let alone what else happened.
Well, if I could extend on the actual book, the thing that hit me when I lived in Colombia was that there's not just the Cali and Medellin cartel. That's pretty much the world only, the outside world only really knows about the Medellin and Cali cartels. Pablo Escobar, and there's just so much more. And there are different cartels, other cartels which you just don't know about, and all other players right throughout the country.
So why do you think they're not as well known or publicised?
Well, I guess the Pablo Escobar. Everyone just talks about him, and now with the Cali Cartel is the second major cartel in the country. But there are other major cartels as well, probably even more violent than both the Cali and Medellin cartel.
So is there turf wars, for example?
There's turf wars, all the time. In fact, just last December in Medellin, Mafia power play is underway. There are about close to two murders every day on average during December.
Merry Christmas, yeah. Bloody hell.
But look, the security has increased dramatically since I first arrived there in 2001. So back in 2001, when I was there in 2003 to 2005, it really was like the Wild West. So absolutely. So it's not the Wild West, at least in the city so much. Perhaps out in the countryside it still is. Yeah. So, but the security has absolutely improved, especially
you
in
would
the
have
last.
seen a lot of those changes
Absolutely.
over the time.
Yes.
Because I've got a mate that I met up in Sydney, and he actually married a Colombian lady, and we'll get on to your wife shortly. He lives over in Colombia and just loves it. Like he's a calm, great bloke. G'day Limo. And he raves about it, and he's always on Facebook going, you guys have got to come to Colombia, the Colombian ladies are the best. And I'm like, there was one night I was half tempted to take him up, and I think he may almost get me over the line. So you met your wife in Colombia, so she's a Colombian native, I take it?
She's Colombian from Medellin, a paisa as they say, from people from Medellin, Antioquia, the state.
Okay.
So we met when I was there in 2003. We married the following year.
Lovely.
And have been married ever since.
And so that's been 13 years?
That's right, 13, 14 years. Yeah.
How did you meet? Was she attracted to the bad boy Austin?
No, well, perhaps a little bit.
And you're striking good Kyle Sandy Lands looks.
Thank you, Pearcey. I was actually her English teacher. So she worked for a multinational company, and I worked for a guy who he had his own English teaching company and would teach executives, professional executives, English. And she was actually one of my students. She was the same age.
Yes.
So it took me a while to actually, do anything because I wasn't sure if that's the right thing to do, even though we're the same age. Still, she's a student.
You're a teacher.
Exactly. I wasn't too sure about it, but eventually I overcame all that. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Things have panned out well.
And you've got 2 daughters?
That's right. 2 young daughters. When we returned to Australia, we had our daughters here in Sydney. Yeah.
Fantastic. And they're young under 10, is that correct?
Yeah.
Are they out with you or are they back home?
No, they're back home with mum.
So, leaving the family aside, you lived in Bogota with your wife,
And this was during 2003, 2005?
Well, we weren't married then.
Okay.
So she was my girlfriend at the time, yes.
Beautiful. Bogota is the capital of Colombia, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Any exciting stories? Any lasting memories?
Some exciting stories for any fans of the book Marching Powder, written by a friend of mine, Rusty Young. Readers of that will know of the main character, Thomas McFadden. He was a drug smuggler, locked away in a Bolivian jail for a while. Well, he got parole in Bolivia and hightailed it to Colombia.
Yes.
And Thomas and I we had a few escapades out in Bogota together, some wild ones. You'll have to read the book to
So I was going to say, are they in the book as well?
They're in the book.
Fantastic. That's awesome. And you still chat to him? Get along with him?
I haven't seen Thomas since he left Colombia in 2003.
Okay. Whereabouts is he based now?
He's back in Tanzania.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Any memorable dates that you took your then girlfriend out on? One of our first dates, we visited Don Fabio Ochoa's restaurant. Now, Don Fabio Ochoa is from the Ochoa clan of the Medellin cartel. He was the patriarch of the clan. The Ochoa brothers were some of the leaders of the Medellin cartel. But he opened one of his restaurants here to the north of Bogota, where his famed horses would parade for diners as they ate some nice steaks or some quality meats. Really?
So we visited Don Fabio's restaurant. I think on our second or third day. Yeah.
Nice. And at this stage, were you living together, or were you living by yourself?
I was living by myself, but we did eventually move in together. So, and that was actually in Colombia was considered a bit of a no-no unless you're married. It's a very religious country. The Catholic is the main religion.
Yes.
And it's generally frowned upon for unmarried couples to live together. So her parents actually had no idea we were living together. So
did they know that you were a couple? Or?
They knew we were a couple, but they didn't know we were living together.
So how did you get that through them?
Well, they lived in Medellin and we lived in Bogota.
Not just a pretty face, I like it. In 2005, you returned to Sydney?
That's right.
With your lovely wife?
Yes.
What brought you back to Australia?
I think, after marrying, I wanted Lily to experience living in my country.
And sorry to interrupt, you got married over there or over here?
We got married just outside of Medellin in Colombia. And that was in late 2004. In the first half of 2005, we returned to Australia. And we lived the next 5 years in Australia, in Sydney.
Fantastic. And does she like Australia?
Yes, she loved it, but she missed her families. Like the families in Colombia, I find are much tighter, generally speaking, than say Australia. So she started to miss her family, and I think she also prefers the Colombian culture. One little example is the dancing. In Colombia, the man and woman, doesn't matter if they're together or not, they just dance together, holding each other as friends. You don't get that here.
No, the guy would think that they're going home together.
That's right.
And that's quite interesting. And do you like that family bond that Colombia is known for, or as you've described?
Well, sure. It's great to have a close family. So,
And is your family, so you and your wife and your two lovely daughters, you very tight in that same Colombian style family, or is there a bit of a mix between Aussie and? It's a weird kind of question, but
I think there's a bit of a mix. I certainly have a great bond with my daughters, who are the light of my life.
And they were born
in Australia, you were saying earlier.
Born in Sydney while we were living and working here in Sydney. Yeah.
And what were you guys doing for work-wise in Sydney?
My wife Lily, she was working in IT. She's a computer engineer by trade, which she studied at university. So she was able to get a good job in an international company here in Sydney. So that was good, and that's when I was working as a stockbroker.
Brilliant. And what was you doing in Colombia?
In the same software development thing. Yeah, so IT. Yeah.
And then you were teaching her English.
That's right. Like say during lunchtimes or before work. Yeah.
So is that part of work or is that just extra?
The company paid for them, for their employees, the executives, to learn English because it was actually it's an international company, so they wanted the executives to be able to speak English.
Good skill to have as well, especially if the company's paying for it.
Yes,
even better. During this time, you just mentioned you were a stockbroker, and this was the period during the global financial crisis.
That's right. Yep.
That would have been a testing time globally.
Look, during that time, I mean, it feels great to make money for someone, but it feels so much worse to lose money, and it was hard to avoid during the crisis. So, yeah.
And you were dealing with, obviously, a whole range of different people.
That's right.
Did you cop a lot of grief?
A couple of times, yes. I think any broker that says they didn't would not be telling the truth. So, yeah. I mean, that's certainly natural, so, yeah.
So after your 5 year stint in Sydney, you came over as a couple and you returned back to Colombia as a family of 4.
That's right. So 2010, Lily missed her family, but also we wanted our girls to experience, part of the Colombian culture. I mean, they are half Colombian after all. So we decided to move back to Medellin.
Okay.
And look, life in Medellin, it really is. It's a great life because it's the weather is pretty much perfect all every day of the year. So they call it the city of eternal spring.
Wow.
And it really is like spring pretty much every day, and it just makes living, getting up in the morning, just a pleasure.
That's unreal. Is it humid or?
Look, you can get a bit hot down in the valley if you're up, because it's situated within a big valley. But if you're up on the mountain slope, you get a beautiful breeze that sweeps in. But look, the main thing I would have missed would have been the beach. So, having grown up on the beach,
North Shore boy, of
that's
course.
right. So that's probably the thing I miss most. Yeah.
And you get back to the beach when you came while you're back here, depending on the weather, or
All the time, yeah.
And you guys do much travelling from Colombia, excluding Australia?
We've travelled to places outside of Colombia, but we've also travelled quite extensively within Colombia as well. And especially now with the improved security situation, it makes travelling to zones which were previously sort of, out of the question.
Sketchy,
A bit sketchy, yeah, absolutely. So, that's now possible to see other parts of the country.
Apart from Bogota, where you live, where would you say your favourite part of Colombia would be?
Look, it probably would be Medellin, where I live, just for the climate.
Sorry, Medellin, yes.
Yeah. Look, the Caribbean coast is great. Up around, say, Santa Marta, but what Colombia is generally known for is the city of Cartagena on the Caribbean coast. So that is pretty much the jewel in the crown for the Colombian tourism industry. It's an old city surrounded by walls, which were essentially to ward off pirates around the 16th century, around that kind of period. Yeah.
So much history, doesn't it? It's
absolutely.
just amazing. Something you said while I was setting up, that you're an author but you don't consider yourself a writer, which I think's a really interesting statement. Can you go into that in any more detail?
Well, I mean, being an author is just a statement of fact now with the book out. So, but being a writer, I just don't look at myself as being a writer, like that's what I'll do for the rest of my life. So I loved writing this book, researching it, and putting it all together. So I got great enjoyment out of that. Look, whether I want to do that again in the future, I'm not sure. Like, you know, I try to do things in life that I enjoy. So what the future holds for me, I'm not sure at the moment.
So you're not sure if you'd write another book?
Not at the moment. I'll enjoy this one for the time being.
Absolutely, yes. And did you always have a dream or an aspiration of writing a book? Or you always
Look,
in literature?
I knew I had a good story here. I've been sitting on this story for a while, and it was a few years ago. A mate, an Australian mate from here in Melbourne, actually, he was living in Medellin, and I was telling him all my stories, and he goes, you know, he's just blown away and said, look, you should write a book. And I was going, no, I hesitated. I go, no, look, I don't want to be whacked.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, well, I still don't want to be whacked. But look, I'm not really scared of it anymore. So,
because that leads into my next question: is did you think of writing under an alias?
yes, I initially started the manuscript with an alias, but then I decided, look, then as I became more comfortable with it, I was happy to put my own name on it.
And you've obviously changed the characters' names in the book to protect.
From my personal story, absolutely, some of the people have their names changed.
So obviously, living in Colombia, there's going to be times where your memory flashes back to the crazy Wild West days and parties and lifestyle that you were accustomed to. Do you still associate or hang out with some of those colourful characters of the cartel scene?
Pearcey, I am but a simple family man these days, but look, these type of characters are never far away in Colombia. I have certainly calmed down a little bit compared to the wild days of the early 2000s.
I'll take that as a good thing. Good and bad. Anyway, I'm sure you are. I'm sure Lily's happy with it anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
So, moving forward, what do you think that you'll be doing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I will see where this journey takes me. And decide what would I like to do next. I always follow the markets, the stock markets, so that'll always be on my plate, following the markets. But I'd like to do, as I said, like to do things that I enjoy, and so what comes up next at this stage, I don't know. So.
Yeah, this is going to be completely off topic, but everywhere you turn, everything that you eat, apart from your awesome book, is Bitcoin. Thoughts on Bitcoin?
It can run up now without me. So I don't understand it. I have no interest in understanding it. So it can play its game without me.
Yeah, I agree. I hear everyone talking about it. I kind of understand a little bit of the concept, but I don't understand me just saying that means I don't understand it, so I don't.
I'm right there with you.
I think I just answered my own question. You're in Australia at the moment publicising the book.
Yep.
What's the book's name again?
White Nights, a Colombian Odyssey.
Website?
At the Pan Macmillan website.
Fantastic. Are you a sports fan at all?
It's one of the things I miss living in Colombia. I miss, watching the rugby league, the Aussie rules football, because my father was actually from Melbourne. Okay. So he was an AFL man, so I grew up watching the AFL but playing rugby at school. So I have an interest in both codes.
What team did the old man support?
In Melbourne, he was a Richmond man, but when he moved to Sydney, he was a Swans man.
Hurt me. I'm a Pies man.
Pies.
So this is going to be a perfect opportunity to head into our You Have to Choose segment. But in the end, we all have no choice. You have to choose. So Austin, Collingwood or Carlton?
Carlton. But then that's not the best choice either, because I like Richmond.
I'm just shocked. I'm sitting.
But if I had to
say,
choose,
mate.
but if I had to choose over Collingwood and Carlton, I'll go Carlton.
West Sydney Rabbitohs or Manly?
Manly. But then again, if the North Sydney Bears were my team,
Yes.
but they're out. So
A lot of my mates in Sydney who listen to this will be very happy that you've said that. I've actually been to the Bears HQ.
yeah,
I think that's what they call it. No, not HQ, but
the Oval.
the Oval and
the
the
Oval.
Pokies.
Yeah,
And
beautiful Oval.
that's what is missing in modern day AFL is it's too much of a business. They don't have their local grounds, and that's what I love about the NRL is when I went and caught up with my friend Sandra in Manly, and there's still the Manly Sea Eagles Oval, and they've got still got their local club rooms, their ovals, and that's awesome. Unlike these days where it's kind of coming back into trend in AFL.
Right, okay.
St Kilda are moving back to Moorabbin,
Yep.
Richmond is obviously Punt Road. Cameron Smith or Toby Thurston?
Well, I've been out of the country for so long, I don't know who Toby Thurston is. So, what was the other guy?
Cam Smith?
Cam Smith. He's from Melbourne, yeah?
Yes.
Well, like, none of the above.
Column C? Are you a beer or a spirits man?
Beer.
What's your favourite beer?
Tui's New.
Tooheys New. What do you drink over in Colombia?
Aguila.
Okay.
Which means eagle in Spanish.
I'm so glad you didn't say Foster's. Far out. Good drop?
It's similar to Tui's. Aguila beer is similar to Tui's. A light beer, easy to drink. Yeah.
Lovely. Holden or forward?
Holden.
Good answer. Something we can agree on. Now, just some random thoughts. So this will be Austin's thoughts. Have you ever had an imaginary friend?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
Any advice for aspiring authors? Because you're an author, but you're not a writer.
I'm an author, not a writer. For aspiring writers, have an interesting story to tell. That's the first obstacle. If you've got an interesting story, then you're well on the way.
Do you think it has to be organically festered, or do you think that you can kind of make that happen?
I think the best would be for it to be authentic, and then just embrace it.
Perfect. So, Austin, I really do appreciate your time, mate. You've been an absolute gentleman and a scholar and fantastic bloke to have a chat with.
Right, well, thanks for having me, Pearcey.
Anytime, mate. Really do appreciate the book that we'll give away. I'll get you to sign if you don't mind.
I will do.
We wish you all the very best in the future. Please keep in touch. I'm sure that this book is going to be a real success. Again, whereabouts can people get it from?
They can get it from Pan Macmillan and any bookstore.
You'll be able to get
As you say, good and bad.
and you'll be able to get it. Can you get it on Amazon?
You can get it on Amazon. You can download Kindle. Yes.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll put a link in the show notes and also on pearceypresents.com under guests, and there'll be some details on White Nights, a Colombian Odyssey, where you can purchase it, and a synopsis as well. So, Austin, you're not on social media, so I can't plug those details. Before we go, give me your best. This is not something that we normally do on the show, but give me your best pitch on why the listeners of the Pearcey Presents podcast should go out and buy this awesome book.
If they want two cracking stories, which is both the Colombia story and combined with my story into that dark world, so to speak, I think they'll be pleased with what they read.
Do yourself a favour, guys. Go out and get White Nights, a Colombian Odyssey by Austin Galt. It will surely not disappoint. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure to have Austin on the show.
Well, Austin, I do greatly appreciate that chat. I hope you guys did as well. I certainly found it extremely interesting. There was a few edit points that we needed to take out a few things just because Austin or myself don't want to get whacked. So I hope that's whet the appetite for getting the book. As I said at the start, there's some more information that's available on the Pan Macmillan website and also on the PC Presents website. There'll be a synopsis, the Pan Macmillan Australian Facebook, Twitter and Instagram links, and a direct link on where to get the book, and a link to the physical stores where you can pick up this cracking read. So again, one last reminder for today is, if you don't mind, could you please subscribe on iTunes, give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you do need instructions, I have formulated an instruction manual, so certainly that'll be available on pcpresents.com and also on the social media platforms. Like and review, follow at PC Presents on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. That's a huge help as well. I do greatly appreciate everything. And